Acharya's order, my limit has this. Now, my limit, I think I have gone to not cross my limit. Maryada must follow the government. Ethic is the Sheshavaki.
Dr. B.M. Farooq, former Director GSI, to address the hall.
Mr. Sridhar Sahu, dignitaries of the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Mine is not a talk, actually. I had the privilege of summarizing the entire proceedings of the day, which is a very difficult job because there are about 20 speakers and it doesn't even give me 10 minutes to speak. So to do justice to that, but then in addition to summing up the presentation of today, I will also give my own feelings about the topic today. I'll begin with what someone told me that how Gandhi reacted to discourses in Bhagavad Gita. Because in Gita, Sri Krishna advises Arjuna to fight, and that is the balance. And Gandhiji, with all his belief in ahimsa and non-violence, how he must have felt to that episode. I'll just read out how he felt. Well, in Gita, that it was Arjuna's sacred duty as a Kshatriya to engage in violence. Now, given Gandhi's doctrine of non-violence, I wonder how you would have reconciled the violence advocated in Gita. What Gandhi says is that Gandhiji has written a book on the interpretation of Bhagavad Gita. Is that Gita is basically symbolic. Yes, it is. And the central battle which the dialect centers around is one of the most potent of the symbols of Gita. He says that the war of Arjuna against his relatives is meant to symbolize the war within each of us against those elements of our characters or minds that we are very attached to, but are ultimately detrimental to the performance of our sacred duty or somehow impede our understanding of the truth about our action. Now, this is very clear now. It's definitely everything that is written in Bhagavad Gita has to be taken with symbolism. Not like what happens, in a geography, in a grammar book of this field. We used to have this field's grammar book in our days. Nowadays, I don't see this book. It says that a chair, a table is noun. So when he describes, Nestle describes noun, he writes chair, table, and maybe the fan are examples of noun. So, but it has not mentioned the microphone is noun. Nestle doesn't say microphone in the list. So we are confused. We don't know that microphone is also noun. We don't accept that. Then it comes to describing microphone is also noun, but since it is not mentioned in the book, so let us not go by literal. It has to be understood with the spirit of the writing, everything. And coming to compassion, I think one of the finest examples, there are many. I mean, the loads of compassion in this book. But what I have experienced is around, I think, I don't know the exact date, but all of you may be knowing, sometime in 2001, perhaps, in Afghanistan, the rebels pulled down the statues of Buddha. Bamiyan Buddha statues were pulled down in Afghanistan by the rebels, or whatever you call them. just subsequent to that, American army entered Afghanistan and raided or took action against the rebels in Afghanistan. Soon after that, the Dalai Lama in India held a prayer for the welfare of the people of Afghanistan. I think this is compassion. This is how, Dalai Lama, a disciple of Buddha, praying for the people of, welfare of the people of Afghanistan soon after the demolition of Bamiyan Buddha is something is not to be. Another very small story I will share with you before I complete this about compassion and how what compassionate one can be. I'm only taking from lives, from what I have seen in my life. A friend of mine had gone on trekking to Darjeeling. On their way, they were trekking in a group. My friend, on the way, they had to stop in some small village. And in the village, they had gone to a Sherpa's residence for a cup of tea. They sat there, they had a cup of tea. And then again, they started trekking. In the meantime, what happened when he was taking tea? He started patting the pet dog of their host. He just patted the dog, and then naturally the dog responded. Then after taking the tea, when they left for their next camp, which was at a higher level, and they started walking, trekking, halfway or after leaving that place, they found that the dog was following him. And my friend of mine particularly, he found that the dog of that village was following him. Now it was difficult for him to go back because they had climbed at quite an altitude, and it was difficult to go back and turn back the dog. So what they did is he said that, okay, since we were going to return back the same way, let us go along with the dog. And then he carried the dog along with him. And in the next camp, which was above the snow line, they all had to go to sleep in the sleeping bags. And where does the dog sleep? The dog slept inside the sleeping bag of my friend, and they had to keep their head outside the bag, and they slept together. This is one of the finest examples of compassion. If such people exist, we can think of, I'm very optimistic that we can ward off violence. My job is to describe the proceedings today, but then it is not possible to touch huge amount of deliberation having taken place today. I'll begin with Professor Nandi of the Zoology Department. He set the ball rolling by giving attributes of arithmetic values to violence. He gave 5 because V in Roman is 5 and L is 50. So love is with L is 50 times a better attribute, better character, better future. Then our organizer of this seminar today, Mr. Acharya, he attributes the violence to the obnoxious cultural practices of our time. To make India a place where women are worshipped is something, that is his dream. And he has been striving for that. Then Mrs. Latika Pradhan, she spoke that violence against women is underreported in India. And India stands at the world's fourth most violent states in the world. Then Mr. S.N. Tiwari, I guess, he stressed on the fact that intolerance is one of the reasons of violence. And another feature he attributes to violence is ignorance. Mr. Abhishek Devagia, he spoke of injustice, perceived injustice, like the Naxals feel, the Maoists feel that they are not, they have been wronged, and that leads to violence. So we have to, and we have been, not only that injustice has been probably meted out, we have also been very silent observers. Then Dr. Narendra Naik, he mentioned that intolerance has reached a magnitude which had not been seen in the post-independence India. More and more rationalists are coming, but then opposition increases many folds. He referred to George Orwell's 1984, and I think we are almost in a state of 1984. I would, in fact, I have read George Orwell's The Animal Farm also, which is also, speaks of a different kind of violence. How so I don't know if anyone of you has read Animal Farm. It speaks of the animals revolting against human beings, and the animal farm, they seal the animal farm, the farm, to all the human beings. So human beings were not allowed. So animals, they said, we'll take care of ourselves. But in the long run, what happens? Some animals, they become the rulers, and then they exploit the other animals. So this is some kind of, part of nature. Dr. Onkar Mahanti, he compared this 11th September of 2001 against the 11th September of 1893 when Chicago's Parliament of World Religion was inaugurated, where Swami Vivekananda had spoken, and how he started with Sisters and Brothers of America and brought a big applause. Dr. Bikash Das spoke from the perspective of love against violence, and he described a case in which he mentioned that it was possible to control violence more because it was possible, it was acceptable, it was rather, there was compassion among the couple, among the husband and wife. So that is how it was possible. Then Dr. C.R. Mishra, Chitrajan Mishra, he spoke that violence, practicing violence and non-violence is more important, and he was very violent about his expression to defend non-violence. Professor Koroboro, he mentioned that unless you know violence, you cannot value non-violence. And he recalls Barack Obama's address in the Swedish Academy while receiving the Nobel Prize, when he saluted people like Martin Luther King, Leo Tolstoy, and even Mahatma Gandhi, although he's not a laureate, he's perhaps above Nobel Prize. So, and he said that violence could not have defeated Hitler or Mussolini. Non-violence could not have defeated. So some amount of violence was perhaps necessary. Dr. Seva Mohapatra, she said that 1 out of every 3 women has suffered violence in our country. And of course she highlighted the tolerance power of women, which is needless to say. Professor R.C. Mahanti said that violence is not natural to women. And I think almost everybody agrees to that. She is all compassion and tolerance to culminate as mother. Mr. R.N. Party also felt that violence is part of life. Some amount of violence is bound to stay. Mr. Shahadev Sahu, he pointed out that bringing up is responsible to to a large extent of getting balance in the society. Dr. Jashna Mahapatra, she stressed the role of woman and mother particularly, and she described the story of a sacrificing mother and the limit of tolerance of that mother on the IAS officer. Professor S.N. Patra gave a completely different perspective. He spoke of the environment. He spoke of the damages that of the violence that is being meted out to the environment and the degeneration that is taking place. And particularly he highlighted what U-turn America has taken after committing to certain amount of action against climate change to mitigate climate change in the Paris Convention of 2015. Then Trump comes. It was signed by Barack Obama as the president of USA, and now when Trump comes, he is withdrawing from all the commitments that they had made to the world community. That is his concern. In addition to his concern of violence against the environment. Mrs. Basanti Acharya, she held ancient culture responsible for violence against women. Mr. Sundar Rajan, he explained, I think we were actually debating with the language in which we wanted him to speak, either in Odia or in English, but he spoke in Sanskrit because half of the slokas that he mentioned went above my head. I'm sorry. But then maybe I'll sit with you and listen to you later. And but I picked up on that we are governed, the society is governed by Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. These three, and Rajas is the culprit. I mean, those who are under the influence of Rajas, they actually succumb to this violence. And intolerance is the root of violence, is what Mr. Rajan states. I think I have covered all the speakers today. I will end up with a small snippet. I'll say small saying. I think somebody had mentioned about. I think it was Dr. Mahanti, who had mentioned that. That Charles Darwin, when he came up with the theory of evolution, he killed God. He killed God in the sense that Charles Darwin contradicted what was written in Bible and in the religious books, Quran and Torah, that mankind originated from Adam and Eve. Whereas Charles Darwin said that it was evolution from the animals mankind came. So there was confrontation between Charles Darwin and the followers of the scriptures. So Noam Chomsky gave a very balanced statement to this. He saw the issue, like he kind of mitigated the violence here by saying that it was God who created Darwin to present the theory of evolution. Thank you.
Damayanti Nayak.
Manisha Malik. Vaibhav Patnaik. Harsha Patnaik, sir. Sorry.
Repeat Corona, Pasha Patnaik.
Vikas Sahu.
Mr. Vikas.
Mr. Vikas Sahu. Mr. Ranjan Sahu. Mr. Vaibhav Naik. Miss Subbalakshmi Parekh. Miss N.S. Subhashri Utkalika. Swati Madhulika. Mr. Vishnu Prashad Behra. Mr. Vishnu Prashad Behra. Miss Swagatika Pranigari. Miss Swagatika Pranigari. Miss Rituparna Bhuiya. Miss Rituparna Bhuiya. Mr. Subhashish Prushti. Mr. Subhashish Prushti. I thank heartily all our participants to be here with patience, nation and belief of non-violence. Lastly, I invite Shri Nihar Ranjan Acharya, Director Trust, to give vote of thanks.
So we conclude that India has taken giant steps since independence 68 years ago. It has successfully sent Mangalyaan, the Mars Orbiter Mission 1, built its own combat aircraft Tejas 2001, sent a successful lunar probe in 2008 through Chandrayaan-1, achieved nuclear capability and boasts of one of the most sophisticated missile programs in the world. In the field of agriculture also it has achieved self-sufficiency in food. Millions of young children are being empowered through the low-cost Akas tablets, linking 2,500 colleges and 400 universities in our unique e-learning programs. I am proud to be born Indian, the country of the great Tagore, Mahatma, Nehru, Kalam and Modi, a rich and vibrant democracy that preaches religious tolerance and celebrates its unity amidst diversity. Undoubtedly, India is a vast and beautiful land. However, the beauty and the goodwill of this great nation gets spoiled with the kind of corruption and with the kind of irrationalities that is happening in India. Superstitions are rampant in our modern day society, and what else, we are degrading our environment and natural resources. My country is my home and I will keep it always clean from all angles. These ideas must be cultivated. This is the roadmap for a better and brighter India. I dream of a prosperous India where people from all religions, cultures and languages live together in peace and harmony. Indeed, my head is held high and my mind is without fear, because being a modern Indian